It's always better to deal with the problem or the punishment or whatever it is immediately. Never put it off. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, but in all seriousness, dealing with the problem head on is the best course of action, in my opinion, and in my experience. The reason for this is just because you don't deal with it immediately doesn't mean that the problem goes away. It just sort of grows louder in your head. And there have been certain situations I've been in where I can't stop thinking about it, and I don't know, just untold pressure that could have easily been avoided. And more than that, it just takes its toll on your like mental health, especially if there's like a deadline attached to it. Whatever it is, it could be too daunting for you to even attempt. Trying to learn a new skill or trying to ask that girl out or whatever, or even that guy. Um, yeah, just sticking your head in the sand and hoping it goes away never really works. And I don't know anybody it's worked for. There's always a repercussion of some kind. And every time I've asked those people, including myself, like, what would you have done differently? They just said, I wish I just got it over with. I wish I just done it, got it over with. And if it goes wrong, at least they have some closure. It's never up in the air thinking like, oh, maybe I had a shot at, being successful at it. For me, this became very apparent when I wanted to do some sort of work, especially when it came to like studying and stuff like that. But even to a lesser degree, even now, for example, currently I'm learning a new skill at work to complete a new process, and for some reason, the way it looked just looked so complicated to me. I had to go to different systems and get information from here, there, update this and that, and I'm like, this is so long. I don't know if I'm going to get this. But when I actually practically did it, it took a bit of time, but bit by bit, it became more clearer. I became more familiar with those systems, and it wasn't bad. I didn't have to like overthink it like I was before. I was never able to solve this until like my last year of university. And what I would do is essentially I would sit down, I'd write a paragraph, just one, and then I'd get up and go and do something else. This could be to go make a cup of tea, or just go outside and just have a little roam around or something like that. Not for too long, like 5-10 minutes at most. Or do some push-ups or something. That's something I used to do a lot. Then come back down, write another paragraph, and just keep doing that. Don't focus on the huge thing, just focus on a bit at a time. And by the point I would pass the first page, sorry, I got into a flow state. I don't know why, but seeing that the first page was done was enough to be like, okay, now this isn't too big for me. I managed to cut through one page. I can do way more. So it's sort of just proving to yourself that, hey, you can do it. And then automatically your mind just calibrates to, all right, cool. We can get this. We can get through this. It'll be easy. It's kind of sad to say that it took me that long to realize how to like discipline myself in order to get those things done. Because ultimately that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? A little bit of discipline to, force yourself. Yeah, to force yourself to actually get those things done. So, yeah. That was quite annoying, but better late than never, right? Another point that gets people to put things off is being indecisive. Not being able to make a decision on any topic or any kind of situation, especially if there's like a time limit attached to it, just means you will eventually lose all options. And you would have wished you at least had taken one. At least you would have been able to go home with something or an answer of some kind anyway, if you weren't successful in whatever that was. Now, this applies to almost everything, but let's make it an example, all right? Let's take girls, because that's what's popular on YouTube, or that's what I see anyway. I don't know what that says about me personally, but yeah, let's say there's girl A and B, right? You're interested in both. Both have their positives and negatives, just like anybody. But you can't make your mind up on either one. So you just take your time with it. Be like, okay, let me see what this is about. Let me see if I feel one way about this one, feel one way about that one, and you just plod along just doing that. Eventually, these girls are going to get disinterested in you because they feel like they're getting stringed along. Because essentially, that's what's happening, isn't it? You're playing both sides of the field, and you're not giving a concrete answer to any one of them. And obviously, they themselves don't want to be made to feel like they're an option. Like they want some genuine interest from the guy that they're interested in. So at one point they'll have had enough. They'll find some other men who are actually interested in them, or women if they swing both ways, and they'll move on with their lives. Whereas you're just left there with no one, just looking stupid because you couldn't make a decision on which one you wanted. Now, if you're a high value man or a high value individual, you can afford to take your time because there's like a huge roster of girls that would just come after you, and that's fine. But for a majority of the people, majority of the men, that's not the case. You don't get girls running you up all the time, do you? I mean, that you can see that by the data that's on like, what do you call it? On those dating apps, like the 80-20 rule. Like, so most girls are only interested in the top 20% of men, and obviously the majority of men are in the 80%, obviously. But yeah, so being decisive is very much important to a guy. Either that or just become high level. It's going to be difficult. I don't know how many guys are going to be able to do it. Obviously not many. I think we're all capable of it, but I don't practically see that happening. There's always been a select few who are at the top and a majority who's left behind at the bottom. So, I mean, that's just how it's always been. When thinking about it a little bit more deeply, it was not laziness that was holding me back. It was cowardice. I'd say when I saw the task ahead of me, it put fear in me. And more often than not, that's what would stop me from actually getting started on it. It also stemmed from the idea that the difficulty of the task would expose how weak I really am. And therefore, at the time when I was a teenager and a young adult, my ego was a lot more fragile. I didn't want to come off as weak. I feel like I had a lot more to prove in a way. So anything that would jeopardize that image I had of myself I didn't want to take a chance on. You know, when you're young, what other people think of you matters a lot. But as time goes over and you've experienced more things and you start to realize nobody's really thinking of you, and what they actually think doesn't really matter because it's not going to really affect you. Because your lives and their lives are just completely separate unless, you are in business with them in some capacity, and in which case you actually take note. Another point I want to add in is the indecisiveness that's also linked to fear. It's essentially that you don't want to make a decision simply because you don't want to lose the other option, just in case option A doesn't yield the result that you actually wanted it to. So you're afraid to commit to either one because you don't want to lose out, or just make the wrong choice for that matter. But what happens is, by staying on the sidelines, like I've said before, you just end up losing both. So it's always better to just stick to one and just come to terms with the fact that you might have made a bad decision. And like I said before, it's always better to actually make the decision and make the mistake rather than just waiting on the side and wishing you had at least done something. One of the things I cannot stress enough is that once you do it, you'll realize this. Once you take a decision, you stop putting it off. You realize nobody really cared, ever. No one noteworthy. So you're going to be fine. It's not going to, you might be playing up in your mind a lot for how dumb you might look at the time, but everybody else just forgets it because they got too much going on in their own lives anyway. With all that being said, you should obviously start living your life more proactively. There isn't really much else to say in this video. It's just something that I've been thinking about lately. And intuitively, I've known about this whole procrastination things, and I've taken small steps to solve it in my own life. But the only reason why I kind of wanted to make a video is I wanted to just sort of air out my own thoughts and organize them myself, write them down, and then just tell it to you guys. It's as if I'm having a conversation. Another point is I know that the frequency of the videos I'm making aren't that quite consistent. That's down to the fact that, my real job, my real life work has been getting in the way, and I've just been getting a little bit more exhausted as well. So hopefully from this point on, I should make it a little bit more consistent. How consistent? I don't know. At least one video every 2 weeks. And if not that, I want to pump it up to at least one video a week. mixed in with everything else that's going on in my life. But yeah, hopefully that's what will happen. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.